I moved house last November, and this is my new apartment. As you can see, it's in the Japanese style. It has tatami mats, and every wall is a door. We even have a Japanese style toilet, but with a simple change and a seat, it becomes a Western toilet. These are all good characteristics about Japanese homes, but some things are not so good about them. One example is heating and lack of insulation. It's very hard to keep a Japanese house cool in summer and warm in winter. I have these big balcony doors which I can open whenever I like, but in winter they stayed firmly shut. And down here and up any of the gaps I put weather stripping to stop the awful draft that came through. Even before winter started properly, because of the draft, it was very cold in here at night. I had to go to bed wearing my socks, which was a bit strange, but got used to it. So how can I keep this place warm? Or, with summer fast approaching, how can I keep this place cool? What do you normally do? I understand why the houses are like this. After the war there was a need for quick and easy houses, and so they sprang up all over the country. But they don't last. I was, however, pleased to see that there was very little damage during the earthquake, so they are more stable than I thought they would be. This is all the damage that I have seen in my house. So, with these negative points in mind, do you think it would be a good idea that Japan slowly replaces its housing with more stable, more warm, secure housing? Or will this be too expensive and take too long? What are the problems? Are there any other cheaper, quicker solutions? What do you think?
And now, Matt speaks Japanese!
このアパート時前、僕は塩釜に住んでいた。レオパレスのアパートだった。新しいアパートと思う。冬で暖かいだった。夏で保冷して簡単だった。すごいよかった。去年夏はとっても暑いでしょ。このアパートことが知らない。多分夏もっと暑い。多分もっと難しい保冷して、保冷して これ多分もっと難しい話してもっと難しいと思う頑張って
Another problem caused by this quick, unplanned building affects the mail. It must be a nightmare to be a mailman in Japan, because the buildings are all over the place. I understand that the last number in the postcode represents the order in which the houses were built in, or how old they are. So does that mean that every mailman in Japan is a history expert? They have to know when the buildings were built in order to be able to deliver letters properly. Oh, it's very difficult. When you consider things like these, I can understand how cultural differences develop. For example, in England, the houses are numbered upward along the street, so you just keep walking down the road until you find the number you are looking for. But then houses in England are built a lot differently. They are built in a straight line along the road, so it's very different to the Japanese block system. Also, even the older houses have modern insulation. I suppose they have to in England because so many houses are very old. It's quite common to find houses that are 200 years old or more. Also, in the centre of the city tends to be the area in which the older houses are. As you go from the centre to the outskirts of the city, the houses become newer and they tend to be larger. The old houses were terraced houses, which are one long building all the way along the street, but it's separated into different homes, and in each home is a different family. Whereas on the outskirts you are more likely to find detached housing and semi-detached housing, which is one house in one building, or two houses in one building, which is quite similar to what you see in Japan now. In fact, it's quite common to see many houses in England that are still being built because of this. When I was a child, I had a friend who lived on a new housing estate, and I used to visit him and we used to go and play across the housing estate. Now, we knew you're not supposed to play on building sites and it can be very dangerous, but we were careful. We only ran between the empty rooms of the houses and we didn't climb on anything or go in any dangerous places. But there's a certain mystery about these half-finished houses. It's kind of like a maze, kind of like a ruin, and it's easy for a children's imagination to get carried away. So it was a great place to play hide and seek. And children in Japan play this game too, right? Even completed houses can be dangerous though. There's a famous English saying, most accidents happen in the home. And I think this is largely because people spend more time in their home than they do anywhere else. I don't think it's because the home's actually more dangerous. Though one thing I have noticed about Japanese homes is the electric sockets. I've always thought Japanese electrical sockets are dangerous because of this. What am I pointing to? Well, it's something that isn't there, something missing. In England, all the electric sockets have switches, so you can turn the electricity on or off, and so you don't get as many accidental shocks. Whereas with these sockets, the electricity is always on, so you have to be very careful all the time. Perhaps many of the accidents occur because of ghosts. It's true that houses in both England and Japan are very old, though I think there's more older houses in England. Both countries have very long histories, and so naturally there must have been many people living in every house. And I
I suppose some people will have died, and there's always reports of ghosts, so you have to watch out. I think the attitude to ghosts is very interesting as well between our two countries. English ghosts tend to be a bit more interactive, a bit more violent. My neighbour, when I was growing up, she said she could always feel a presence at the top of her stairs, and sometimes it felt like it was trying to push her. And I myself have an experience. When I lived in my first house, in the kitchen there was a table at the far end, and I spent one evening watching TV in the living room at the front of the house. And I would come to the kitchen to get snacks and make drinks of tea. But one time I came to the kitchen and the table had moved. Whew, feel better now. So, how do ghosts in Japan compare? English ghosts tend to move objects around, make noises, try and scare people. Is it the same in Japan? Do ghosts do that, or do they act in a different way? I'd like to hear your stories or ideas if you have any. It's competition time! This is for my students and not for anybody else watching. But if you would like to take part, please leave a comment. I would always be interested to see what you have to say. Today we've been talking about housing, Japanese housing and English housing, the differences. So my question is on this topic. The first student who comes to me and completes the following sentence will win a small prize. The sentence is this: my ideal house will have. My ideal house will have. I hope you learned something.
What you have just seen required editing to make it sensational.